The Three Little Pigs. Once upon a time, there were three little pigs who lived happily with their mother until it was time for them to leave their pleasant sty and make their way in the world by themselves. They loved romping through the green fields, but they could not really enjoy themselves freely because they were always afraid of the big bad wolf, a nasty creature who preferred tender little pig to any other wolf food. One day, they solved their problem. We'll each build a wolf-proof house, they decided. They read books on how to make wolf-proof houses and consulted other creatures who were expert builders. They looked at birds' nests, checked beehives, and studied beaver dams. Finally, they were ready. The first little pig built himself a pretty little house of bamboo poles, and his brother built a handsome little house of wood. They both felt very safe, but the third little pig warned his brothers that their houses were not strong enough to be wolf-proof. But the other two would not listen, and so the third brother stopped arguing with them and built his own house of bricks and mortar. His house was the strongest and sturdiest and even had a tall chimney, locks on the windows, and bolts on the doors. One day, when the big bad wolf was out for a walk, he caught a whiff of his favorite food. "Come out and play," he shouted to the first little pig, who was sitting inside his bamboo house feeling safe as could be. "Not me," cried the little pig. "I'm safer where I am." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," snarled the wolf. "Huff away," laughed the little pig. Without waiting another minute, the wolf huffed and he puffed and blew the little bamboo house straight up into the air, and the little pig with it. He was blown right across the meadow and landed on his brother's doorstep. The two little pigs locked themselves inside, and both felt safe in the handsome little house of wood. When the wolf came loping by, the smell of his favorite food made him hungrier than before. "Come out and play, I'm lonely," he called, knowing that there were little pigs inside. "Not us," the little pigs called back, and giggled and chuckled because they felt so safe in their cozy little wooden abode. "Then," growled the wolf fiercely, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down." He sucked in as much air as he could into his lungs and then blew one of his famous blasts, the most powerful one ever. The handsome little wooden house collapsed, and the roof was blown straight up into the air with the two little pigs clinging to the rafters. They landed right near the house of the third little pig and ran lickety-split to his door, with the wolf trailing right behind them. Their brother called to them from the window that his door was open, so they rushed inside and slammed it shut. Quickly, they bolted the bar across the door and locked the locks on the windows. Then, safe and sound, they waited inside the little house of bricks and wondered what the big bad wolf would do next. By this time, the big bad wolf was hungrier than ever and even more tempted by the smell of his favorite food. He was furious because the first two little pigs had escaped him, and this time he was determined to eat all three for his dinner. He knew just what to do, of course. "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," he roared to the brothers inside. He drew in all the air that he could hold and blew it out in one of his famous blasts. But nothing happened. The strong little house stayed firm and sturdy. He blew another blast, and chairs flew into the air, along with brooms, spades, barrels, and everything else. But the little house still did not budge an inch. The little pigs giggled happily, safe inside. Finally exhausted, the big bad wolf realized he could not drive out the little pigs with his famous blasts, and so he decided to try one of his famous mean tricks. "Oh, what lovely apples you have in your tree," he called out sweetly. "Let's pick them together and share them," he went on in a friendly voice. But the little pigs could not be tricked. They climbed into the tree from the roof and threw apples down at the wolf. Then, when his back was turned, they jumped from the tree and rushed right back into their little house. When the wolf realized that the three little pigs had tricked him and were once again safe inside their sturdy little brick house, he was angrier than ever and hungrier as well. His famous blasts had failed, and so had his famous trickery. He had to invent a new plan. he found a long red ladder and very, very quietly, so that the little pigs would not hear him, he propped it up behind the house and climbed to the roof. "This time I'll really catch them and have myself a fine dinner," he chuckled to himself. "I'll slide down their chimney and pounce on them like a hawk. They'll never know where I came from." But the shrewd third little pig had been watching from the window, and while the big bad wolf was climbing under the roof, the three little pigs had time to think up a plan of their own. "I know what we'll do," said the third little pig calmly. "Abandon the house," squealed one brother. "Hide in the forest," whimpered the other. "No, you two sillies," laughed their brother. "We'll build a great hot fire in the hearth, and when the wolf comes down the chimney, he'll get a warm welcome. Come on, help me." Quickly, the three got to work and laid a huge pile of logs in the hearth and set them ablaze. Great flames shot up the chimney just as the wolf started down, tail first. Instantly, his great hairy tail was aflame, but he couldn't stop sliding, and he fell straight into the burning logs. "Help! I'm burning up!" he roared as he rushed out of the fireplace. "Let me out!" he shrieked, screaming with pain and running around in circles. The first little pig opened the door, and the fiery wolf dashed outside. He ran across the meadow in great leaps and bounds, and was never heard from again. After this, the three little pigs built another sturdy house of bricks, big enough for all of them, and lived there happily ever after, safe from the big bad wolf and other enemies. The end.